The lie that started everything before I tell you what Ted Bundy did. And I am going to tell you everything. I want to start with something that most documentaries skip over, because I think it is the most important part of this entire story. Ted Bundy did not know who he was. Not in the philosophical sense. In the literal, documented sense. He grew up believing his grandparents were his parents. He believed his biological mother was his older sister. He believed his name was Ted Nelson, the man who would become the most notorious serial killer in American history. Spent his childhood living inside a lie constructed by his own family to hide the shame of his illegitimate birth. And when he finally discovered the truth, in a records office in Philadelphia in 1968, reading his own birth certificate for the first time, something inside him broke in a way that he never recovered from. I am not telling you this to excuse what he did. 30 confirmed murders, possibly many more. Nothing excuses that. I am telling you this because understanding Ted Bundy requires understanding the specific way he was built. And it starts with a lie. The child in the lie, early life Theodore Robert Cowell, was born on November 24th, 1946, at a home for unwed mothers in Burlington, Vermont. His birth certificate listed his mother as Louise Cowell. The space where a father's name should appear was left blank. The family's solution to the stigma of an illegitimate child was simple and devastating. His grandparents, Samuel and Alina, took baby Ted into their home and raised him as their own son. Louise became his sister. The grandfather, Samuel Cowell, was a violent, alcoholic tyrant who beat the family dogs, screamed at invisible enemies, and once threw his own daughter down a flight of stairs for oversleeping. He kept extensive collections of pornography hidden in the greenhouse that young Ted discovered early in life. And before Ted was 3 years old, his maternal Aunt Julia woke from a nap to find herself surrounded by kitchen knives that had been quietly placed around her sleeping body. Her 3-year-old nephew was standing at the side of the bed, smiling down at her. In 1950, Louise took Ted and fled to Tacoma, Washington. She married a man named Johnny Bundy, who formally adopted Ted and gave him the surname he would make infamous. Ted resented his stepfather deeply, thought him uneducated, unrefined, beneath him. He spent his teenage years shoplifting and prowling affluent neighborhoods at night, peering through the windows of unlit houses to watch women undress. This was not the beginning of Ted Bundy's darkness. This was the darkness, already there, looking for a shape to take. Every time I research Ted Bundy's childhood, I find myself stopping at that image of the 3-year-old with the kitchen knives. Not because it proves what he became, children do strange things, but because nobody in that house asked the right question. Nobody looked at that child and said, "Something is wrong here and we need to find out what." They moved on, and the world paid for it. Stephanie, the woman who built the monster in 1967, 20-year-old Ted Bundy met a woman named Stephanie Brooks at the University of Washington. She was beautiful, wealthy, sophisticated, from an elite California family. Everything that Ted Bundy wanted to be and was not. He fell into an obsession with her that went far beyond romance. She represented a version of life he felt he deserved but could not access. In the summer of 1968, the same summer he discovered his birth records and learned his entire childhood was a lie, Stephanie ended the relationship. She told him directly that he lacked ambition, direction, and the kind of future she wanted. The rejection did not break Ted Bundy. It transformed him. He went back to university, switched to psychology, graduated with honors. He threw himself into Republican Party politics. He became a campaign worker, an assistant to party leadership, a young professional on the rise. He built himself into the exact man Stephanie had rejected him for not being. And in the summer of 1973, he traveled to California, found her, and presented himself. She was stunned by the transformation. They began talking about marriage. He let her fall in love with him. And then, in January 1974, having fully rebuilt his shattered ego, having proven he could possess her, Bundy stopped all contact completely. When she finally reached him by phone to demand an explanation, he said, "Stephanie, I have no idea what you mean," and hung up. He never spoke to her again. 1 week later, he broke into a basement apartment in Seattle, while a young woman slept and attacked her with a steel rod. The murders had begun. Was Stephanie Brooks the cause of what Bundy became? Absolutely not. The kitchen knives were there before she was. The peering through windows was there before she was. But she gave him something specific, a rejection so total that it activated a need for control over women that had been building since childhood. The timing is too precise to ignore. The murders began 1 week after he emotionally destroyed the woman who had once destroyed him. 1 week. The fake cast and the Volkswagen. How he hunter Ted Bundy's method was designed around a specific understanding of how people work, specifically, how women had been socialized to respond to a man who appeared to need help. He wore a fake plaster cast on his left arm. He used crutches. He carried stacks of books or papers. He approached young women in university parking lots and library walkways and politely asked if they could help him carry something to his car. A tan 1968 Volkswagen Beetle parked just out of sight. The women who helped him were not naive. They were not careless. They were doing what most decent people do when a polite, handsome, well-dressed young man with his arm in a cast asks for a small favor on a university campus in broad daylight. They were being human, and Ted Bundy had spent years studying exactly how to use that against them. His victims shared a specific physical profile: white, slender, intelligent college students with long hair parted down the middle. The profile matched Stephanie Brooks. Several investigators noted this in their reports. Bundy himself eventually confirmed it in the confessions he gave on death row. He was not hunting strangers. He was hunting a type. And the type had a face he already knew. The murders, Washington to Florida, between January 1974 and February 1978. Ted Bundy murdered at least 30 young women and girls across 7 American states. The youngest was 12 years old. Most were university students. Most were exactly where they were supposed to be, in dormitories, on campuses, at libraries, at parties, doing the ordinary things that young people do when they feel safe. I want to tell you about some of them. Not as statistics. As people. Linda Ann Healy was 21. She broadcast morning ski reports on university radio. On the morning of February 1st, 1974, her roommates came downstairs for breakfast and found her bed neatly made. She was gone. Bundy had carried her out in her own bedsheets while her roommates slept upstairs. Jorgen Hawkins was 18. She was abducted from a brightly lit alleyway just yards from her sorority house at the University of Washington, close enough that she could have called out and someone inside might have heard her. 12-year-old Lynette Dawn Culver was taken from a junior high school lunch break. Kimberly Diane Leach was 12 years old. She had forgotten her purse in a classroom and was walking back across the school courtyard to get it. A witness saw a man in a tan jacket take her by the arm and lead her toward a white van. She was crying. Nobody stopped them. Then came January 15th, 1978, the night that made Ted Bundy's name permanent in American memory. At 2:45 in the morning, he slipped into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University through a malfunctioning door latch. He was carrying an oak log from the backyard woodpile. He moved through the darkened hallways and attacked 4 women as they slept. 2 of them, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, did not survive. 2 others suffered catastrophic injuries. Then, still moving with adrenaline, he walked 8 blocks to another address and attacked a 5th woman. In less than 90 minutes, on a single January night, Ted Bundy attacked 5 women in 2 separate locations. He was caught eating breakfast the next morning. Kimberly Leach had forgotten her purse. She went back to get it. That is the detail I cannot move past in this case. She was 12 years old, and she went back across the courtyard to get her purse, because that is the responsible, sensible thing to do. And that ordinary, responsible decision was the last one she ever made. There is no lesson in that. There is nothing to learn from it that would have changed what happened. It is just unbearable. And I think it is supposed to be. The 2 escapes, the man who walked OUT twice, what separates the Ted Bundy case from almost every other serial killer story is what happened in the middle of it. While he was already caught, already in custody, already facing trial. He escaped twice. The first time, in June 1977, Bundy was being held at a courthouse in Aspen, Colorado, awaiting a capital murder trial. He had insisted on acting as his own attorney, which gave him unsupervised access to the courthouse law library. One morning, left entirely alone, he walked to a 2nd-story window, looked down at the street below, and jumped. He ran into the wilderness of Aspen Mountain and spent 6 days hiding in the forests with no food and no shelter, suffering from severe exposure, before being recaptured while stealing a car to drive back into town. The second escape was more methodical and more terrifying. Transferred to a high-security jail in Glenwood Springs, Bundy spent months acquiring a hacksaw blade from another inmate, cutting through the reinforced ceiling of his cell, and embarking on an extreme fasting regime, deliberately losing over 20 pounds so his body would fit through the 12-by 12-inch hole he had created. On the night of December 30th, 1977, while staff numbers were reduced for the Christmas holidays, Bundy climbed into the ceiling, crawled through the ductwork directly over the jailer's apartment, broke into the jailer's closet, changed into civilian clothes, and walked out the front door. He caught a bus to Denver. He flew to Chicago. He took a train to Michigan. He stole a car. He drove to Atlanta. He boarded a bus to Florida. By January 8, 1978, Ted Bundy, wanted for multiple murders across several states, was living in Tallahassee, Florida, under a false name, and the Chi Omega sorority house was 7 days away. Between his first and second escapes, Ted Bundy killed at least 4 more people. Between his capture in 1975 and his final arrest in 1978, he killed at least 9. Every failure of the system during those 3 years, the escape, the inadequate security, the bureaucratic delays, cost someone their life. When we ask how Ted Bundy happened, part of the answer is inside that question. The trial, the man who performed his OWN circus, Ted Bundy's 1979 Miami trial, was the first criminal trial in American history to be nationally televised. He fired his public defenders and acted as his own co-counsel. He wore monogrammed blazers. He cross-examined police officers. He made eye contact with the cameras. He treated the courtroom as a stage for an audience he believed was watching him rather than judging him. And for a period, a disturbing number of people watching at home agreed with him. Women sent him fan mail on death row. A woman named Carol Ann Boone moved to Florida to support him through the trial. During the penalty phase of his second murder conviction, Bundy exploited an obscure Florida law that recognized a marriage declaration made in open court as legally binding. He proposed to Boone from the witness stand. She accepted. They were legally married on the spot, in a courtroom where he had just been convicted of murder. She later claimed their daughter was conceived during an illicit conjugal visit on death row. The prosecution countered his performance with evidence he could not charm his way out of. Forensic odontologist Dr. Richard Suviron presented life-sized photographs of bite marks left on Lisa Levy's body and placed transparent overlays of Bundy's dental impressions directly over the wounds. The alignment was perfect. Chipped, uneven lower incisors matching bite marks in human flesh. On July 24, 1979, the jury convicted him of the Chi Omega murders. Judge Edward Cowart sentenced him to death, and then, in one of the most extraordinary statements ever made in a criminal court, said, "You're a bright young man. You'd have made a good lawyer. But you went another way, partner." Bundy sat and absorbed the compliment embedded inside his death sentence without visible emotion. The confessions, bones for time, Bundy spent a decade on death row filing appeal after appeal, exhausting every legal avenue available to him. As his final execution date approached in January 1989, and his lawyers told him there was nothing left to try, he turned to his final manipulation. He contacted FBI agents and investigators and offered what journalists called a bones for time strategy, detailed confessions in exchange for execution delays. He sat with investigators over several days and peeled back everything, methodically mapping 30 murders across 7 states, detailing the locations of remains that had never been found, describing in clinical detail what he had done at each location, and what he had returned to do in the weeks after. He asked for the executions to be delayed so more confessions could be collected. The state of Florida declined to wait any longer. On the morning of January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair, known as Old Sparky. His final words, addressed to his attorney and a behavioral analyst, were, "Jim and Fred, I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends." Outside the prison, more than 2,000 people had camped overnight. When the announcement came, they cheered. They set off fireworks. They chanted. A fraternity near the prison held a cookout with Bundy burgers. The crowd's reaction disturbed many observers, almost as much as Bundy himself had. In strict accordance with his final written instructions, his body was cremated, and his ashes were secretly scattered in the Cascade Mountains in Washington state, the same wilderness where his first victims' remains had been found. 2026 breaking update. DNA closes another case. Ted Bundy has been dead for 36 years. And in April 2026, just weeks before this video was published, his case made international news again. Investigators in Utah used advanced DNA testing to officially confirm that Bundy murdered 17-year-old Laura Ann Aime in 1974, closing a 52-year-old cold case. The DNA match was made possible by Bundy's full genetic profile, now being held in a national database. Utah County Sheriff's investigators have stated publicly that other cases are expected to be closed soon. There may be more victims whose families have waited half a century for an answer that is finally coming. Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders. He hinted there were more. Investigators have always believed the number was higher. We do not know, even now, how many people he killed. And the families of those we still do not know about are still waiting. The real question: I have spent a lot of time with this case. More than I expected to. And the question it keeps leaving me with is not about Ted Bundy. It is about the way we talk about Ted Bundy. He was handsome. He was charming. He was intelligent. These facts have been repeated so many times in so many documentaries and books and Netflix series that they have become almost a kind of explanation. As if being handsome and charming justifies the scale of attention, as if it makes the case more interesting than it would otherwise be. But here is what I keep coming back to. Karen Sparks was 18. Linda Healy was 21. Donna Manson was 19. Jorgen Hawkins was 18. Janice Ott was 23. Denise Naslund was 19. Melissa Smith was 17. Lynette Culver was 12. Kimberly Leach was 12. They were not supporting characters in Ted Bundy's story. They were the story. Every documentary that begins with his face, including this one, is giving him something he wanted while he was alive and something he would have wanted after. Our continued fascination with him is, in some way, the last thing he takes from us. The victims deserve the attention. Ted Bundy deserves to be a footnote in the stories of the people he destroyed. That is where I land every time I come back to this case. And I always come back to it. If this case affected you the way it affects me, subscribe to Vault of Crime. New case every week. We will see you in the next one.